Just confirm. I think we're live. If we're not, whatever. Hello. What's up, guys? Pocket Pals Hub monthly market update. We're here with our mainstays, MetaKhai, Atlas Wind, Mushu's Collectibles, and our guest, Caas Collectibles from Austin, Texas. Everybody say hello.
Hello.
Hi.
So, man, it's August now. We're a week away from Worlds. I wanted to talk a bit more about graded cards this time and what we've been doing all year and how we've been capitalizing on graded cards. I think a lot of the Pokey investors talk a lot about sealed investment strategies, and I think every one of us individually have been making some pretty interesting plays with graded cards and capitalizing on this bull market. So I guess we can jump right into it, and maybe the first thing we can talk about is how have graded cards improved your business this year, and how do you avoid some of the pitfalls or risks with graded cards?
I think our guest should go first.
I can go first. So for me, graded cards this year have been honestly very lucrative. Before I used to I've always done graded, but I was always me really just going out and sourcing raw and then grading and having my margins there and doing that in quantity. But this year, I started dipping my toes in doing buyouts and maybe a lot more speculating, honestly, as the market has started to go crazy. And I mean, it's been amazing. The speculating thing, I think, if you have your ear to the ground and you're kind of seeing what's going on around, you can kind of catch stuff as it starts to go. My biggest thing is, I think, how everything's had their waves, megas and all that, and something gets announced and everybody wants to buy into the hype, and right now, what is it with, I guess right now there's the Mega Gengar and what is it, the Symphonies, what is this set called?
Mega Brave, Mega Symphonia.
Yeah, it's gonna have, and then it caused the Lucario. It's just it's a strange time for sure, but I think you never would have thought that you could buy a card and sit on it for 2 months and it go up even 2x some things and all that, if not even more. But yeah, it's been a really good year and graded, and that's it's been chaotic also at the same time, though. I'm a little scared sometimes holding things. Is this hype really going to stay there, etc.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the plays being played out, and I thought the mega play was going to be played out back in the spring or summer.
I know.
Where, there was the official IP registration or whatever of the mega sets, and everyone kind of caught wind of it, and then we saw the megas. Even at that point, they were 2xing.
Yep.
And I said, okay, 2x, that's great. Take your money and run, which is what I did. I got my stuff when it was market, and then it would 2x, and I sold it. And now we're hitting 3x. It's out of this world. And I think one thing that's been interesting, of course, we all kind of can experience the luck being in a bull market and capitalizing on that. But when vendors feel like it's too late, that doesn't mean the overall hobby and community has felt that way. And we probably have a bit more time than we realize. And I think in the case with megas, that's what happened. Do I think it's topped out? I don't know confidently. I'd like to say yes, but feels like it now we're kind of in that space where megas are really, really high.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, I'm like Cass too, or Matt. Is Matt and Cass, right? Can I call you both?
Yeah.
I was like him too. I've always been a big fan of grading raw cards. A big principle I always preach is close the gap. It's always how do I catch up these rich guys? Grade myself. It's pay dirt low and then find the best quality cards and then get PSA 10s. You go from $100 to $1,000. Sometimes you're mostly 2xing in raw cards, but there's some instances where I've been 10xing in cards. So that's been a huge gain for my business and my procedures and stuff. But this year specifically, speculation plays, I've been having a great time with them. I mean, all of us have been doing really well in the spec department. I think all of us play in different fields, but my strategies, like specifically this year, I think a few that I can touch on is like the EV alt arts. I was tackling them right before they shifted, and I was like, thank God, because I was like, the EV VMAX boxes, I was targeting those pretty hardcore for a sliver of time. And then they all went from 300 to 1,000. I'm like, yes, it's perfect timing. And then I think a lot of us vendors specifically were on the Festa train for quite a bit. I think we all just like unanimously like shook hands and were like, yes, we all agree. This is the next big big push. I think we all jumped on the Festa train for quite a bit. So those are two like summer highlights that I had for this year that paid off pretty well, at least on my end.
Also, we should give you a round of applause for grading that PSA 10 Gold Star Vaporeon.
Oh yeah, that was. I've never. That was like my number one grade so far, and at least of like it went through my own eyes, and like I was like, this looks like a 9. It ended up being a 10. I was like, all right. It was a very like after we got it back, and obviously Milan got it afterwards. We looked at the copy. I was like, this is actually a really clean copy. Because at that time, I think 2 or 3 months ago, I was being extremely harsh on grading because I was like, PS is going to grill everybody. So I was like, maybe I just turn on the harshness of my grading, and then here we are. Vaporeon 10, baby. Thanks. Very proud of that moment.
Yeah. Mushu and Atlas, I'd love to know from y'all's perspective. Y'all aren't submitting cards for grading as much, but in terms of speculation and making really, really bullish plays and then 2xing, 3xing, or sky's the limit your money. I'd love to hear kind of how you guys have tackled that, especially with regard to ultra high end that you guys have been doing this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's with me and Miller, it's really kind of just been very, very like, it's been like harmonious. Everything that it's kind of like yin yang. Like whenever we started like going to shows together this year, it's like we literally just had the two like hottest things. And I think if you take a step back, looking at the past 8 months, I think whatever you put your money in, you would have been correct because it's like hyper growth. Everything's gone up. But the two high end stuff that has literally been bread and butter for Miller and I have just been Ponchos and Gold Stars, and just making the play and sticking with it for 5, 6 months, especially with like Ponchos, it literally just like exponentially grew my business, and then Gold Stars was something that Miller's been getting into, like specifically the 10s, which is like you have scarcity and you have ultra high value, and you combine the two in a bull market. I mean, the prices get crazy and crazier and crazier. And so, I mean, yeah, it's just, we really just talked about that. Initially, it was like, he was like, I'm going to try and collect all the Gold Star 10s. And I was like, well, I'm just going to hoard Ponchos. And then we're literally just going to all these shows doing the exact same strategy. And there's just so much growth the entire way. And we just rode that. Like, I don't think I really diversified much in anything else. Like, I still have never graded a card in my life. I've just been waiting for people to get PSA 10s, and I'll just be buying them up and then, flipping them. I will grade at some point. When the right raw card comes into my hands, I will grade for sure. But until then, I've just been riding the train. You just kind of step back, look at the overall market. Everything's humming very, very well together. So you just pick the two most liquid kind of cards over this past 6 to 8 months, and that's really all there was to it. I don't think I don't think I did anything special. I just put my money on two things that looked very, very good and just rode it for the whole year.
100%. Yeah, and I mean with like speculation, January, if not December last year, we talked about this earlier, but the Gold Stars and 10s, they were going for less than alt arts were, and some of these other cards that were like way more in population. Like, if we had to put an example, Mewtwo Gold Star PSA 10 was $4,000 last year. That had so much room to grow, and most of the Gold Star 10s did. So that's what my thought process was. So I kind of took like a bigger risk getting into all these Gold Star 10s. I got up to like 15 of them, and then I decided to cash out and then pick up some other Gold Stars that I saw more value that could have been played into. And that's why I picked up recently the Larios Larias.
Those
And
are big.
then, thank you, brother. And then, honestly, I just feel like there are some other cards that have that same exact room if you can pick it up at the right price. Like the Neo Lugia, that still has room. The first Ed Zard hadn't gone up much, but the grades 9 to 1 probably have more room to grow. And then if we're mentioning a Gold Star specifically, I believe that has more room to grow is probably Torchics in the grades 1 to 8. If y'all saw the most recent, 120K sale and people offering 250K, people are now buying up all the 9s because they're speculating these 9s to jump up to 20, 30K just like the Ray did.
Right.
So those type of plays is like what I like to do.
I'd love for you to expand on how you've been able to make those plays and like where your judgment lies on making those plays before there's any data to prove it. But before that, holy crap, that Torchic sale was low. And like, how do we protect ourselves from that? Because I think a lot of us are making speculative plays on cards that are 5 figures and up, and one lousy PSA 10 sale can hurt some of our card values in theory. So yeah, kind of curious to hear from y'all how you're counteracting that, and if you've had any struggles with reevaluating the pricing of your cards.
Wait, was the 120 considered weak then?
Crazy weak, like 50% off.
That's crazy.
Well, I have a stance on that because I was like, if you're deep into social media and you see all the vendor interactions and conversations, we all know that there was a 250K offer on the table for a Gold Star Torchic 10. So in that regard, it's really low. But if that whole conversation didn't happen, I think in the grand market, it was okay. I was like, the Torchic getting close to a Gold Star Ray 10, and I was like, what the heck? I was like, like if I had no context of all these conversations, I would have been like, one's worth more to me than the Torchic, you know? But that was just that blew my mind. I was like, damn.
It is good to see that sale data information like publicly on Instagram instead of just like us talking about it like privately, because I think that the optics behind that helps a lot. Like with all the Torchic grades, even if it was a 1 cert at 120K, at least we have some sort of baseline for what a very, very old cert copy goes for. Because, the 250K was for a 4 cert with a swirl. Somebody could still very much pay that much because I don't know how clean the 1 cert was. But, I also kind of feel like that's an anomaly because that's 1 out of 19 copies. Like that's probably it could very well be the only 1 cert. Who knows? The other 18 could all be newer certs. We don't know about that, but I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be really nice to have a Rayquaza 10 sale.
Right.
I mean, I don't want it yet. Not gonna lie, I'm gonna let those private sales happen. I'd rather catch up on my own later. But
I mean, what do y'all think it's worth? I think it's worth almost 200K or more.
Wait, the Torchic or the
Ray?
Oh, I think before they get swept up, I think they're worth 150 personally.
Yeah.
But now that this Torchic is getting 250, and I'm like questioning my life. But I don't think it's worth 250, but the offer is there, so it is technically worth 258 now.
Yeah.
Also, do we think a Torchic 9 is worth more than a Ray 9 based on scarcity of the 10?
That's so crazy, but technically, yes. I think technically, but I mean, I don't personally believe in that. But
yeah, it's cool.
Grand market's not me,
It's like ultra speculating because what was it? I think it was New Jersey. I bought a 10 cert mudkip for like over $8,000 when the last sold was 7K, and the 2 cert just did almost 12,000. I literally just thought about it, and I was like, if Torchic's going to go up, I feel like the other 2 starters move with it. And it's all speculation, but I mean, I guess that worked out.
Nice.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is, right? Like, you know, we talk about comps all the time, that it gets really tricky when we're speculating and we're in the middle of something appreciating 20 to 30% or a category of cards. And we have to get really creative as vendors, collectors, assessing comps in a market like that. And one of those examples is what Milan just mentioned. If you don't have comps of your Mudkip, you got to look at the Torchic and see where that's moving, or the Trico and see where that's moving. You know, like there was an example recently. We were all at a show and we saw a Mudkip that we all thought was overpriced. And a friend of ours saw a Trico sell for over that in the same grade and picked it up. And guess what? They won out on that. So there are definitely some more advanced strategies in terms of comping your cards in this kind of market. And sometimes you're just not going to have the data and you have to go for the next best thing to figure it out.
It also helps walking at the shows, because walking around, I found out that a Torchic 9 sold for 12,000. And then it was at that point, I used that benchmark to figure out like a Mudkip at 8,500 or something. This seems kind of cheap. And so that's how I kind of use that as like a baseline to pick it up. And so in hindsight, it kind of made sense. Obviously, paying over public comps is always very risky, but it's those types of risks you have to take when scarcity is involved if you want to like make some serious like profit. I think we can all agree on that.
Right.
So
are you doing a bit of that, Matt? Like, I know you've got a pipeline with PSA where you've got a relationship with them and you're submitting cards to PSA to kind of get some record sales on graded cards. Are you buying over comps now and putting it up through your partnership in more?
On smaller things, nothing like of that scale, but like if I can, like I've been walking shows recently and I'll comp stuff, kind of see like when was the last sale, and then that low list argument that a lot of people use and all that is like really actually very important now to me, because if I can beat that low list a little bit and then it sells through, so basically I sell through PSA's vault on eBay and I have discounted rates, so I get more eyes on everything. Almost everything on there gets a premium, and it's very seamless, process. So I have been using that for like, 8s and 9s and some like, some of, grades, and it's definitely changed. Like, I was before, I would have never touched, and I'm not as tapped in as you guys. Like I'm not, I don't vend as many shows. I'm not, I'm kind of like a hermit. Honestly, I kind of like keep my head down and just grind. So like I would have like never, I don't, all these private sales I don't hear about, or like I'm just not, in discussion with. So like I would never have known, like even yesterday I moved my Gold Star 8 Ray, just, I mean, it was a new start and all that, just based on where this current one that's on auction on eBay is at and where I feel like it's going to end. And just because I wanted to play it safe, I graded that myself. And funny story is it was a tag 8.5. So I honestly was going for the 9 because it looked really good in the scans and all that. And I paid, full 8 price a month ago. But, a month ago, it, was, it's almost doubled realistically. And like the 5 or 6 weeks it took to look at it. I tried it at a few companies, and I was happy enough with the PSA 8.
I love seeing the Gold Star rate just skyrocket.
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you were able to pull from a tag 8.5 and get that grade and see it double. That's amazing. And I think a lot of folks, hell, myself included, will sit there and in a way get greedy and try to get that top dollar. But when you're in on something that good, sometimes getting your profits out and turning it into something else is even better.
Oh, that's a good conversation, because I kind of thought about it during the Milan and Matt's conversation, like the private sales situation. Like I don't know how y'all feel about that, but there's some cards that you have that instead of sending it to the auction house, you feel like you just can sell higher than the auction house. It's such a weird thing to me. I was like, because all these big cards, everyone's like, go send it to Heritage, Z&G, Alt, and I'm just like, what if I could do it? So it's kind of fun finally being able to do it. So Milan, we broke a record. We keep that private, like we said. But to me, I was like, that was a huge stepping stone for me, because I was like, I finally beat an auction house. I was like, we can do it. Any of us can do it.
And
That
then
was
I
like a
turned around and did the same thing. So we both could.
yeah. We both cooked.
Yeah.
It was a huge milestone for me because I just never knew what my limitations were. So I was like,
Right.
now we got new limits. Let's see what we can do. So how do y'all feel about that? Going like big cards on your own versus auction houses?
I mean, I've been dabbling with ZNG for the first time, and it's a humbling experience. Sometimes you're not able to sell the cards that you believe in. And one example has been my PSA 10 Dark Gengar, my first edition Dark Gengar. I thought I'd be able to sell it for a certain number. Just like we talked about, the correlating comps justified probably a 2x on the last sale, and I priced it around there. And there are several other folks that we know who have their Dark Gengars priced at the same exact price point. I wasn't able to move it. I've had it at several shows, including a few Collecticons, and I thought, you know what? Instead of having this as sitting inventory, it's, I'm thinking I'm going to be able to realize over 7K if I can. I'd rather just send it up to ZNG and at least with that card test it out. That was a specific example where the Dark Gengar hasn't sold since May. I know ZNG has been hitting record sales week after week. They came back with a vengeance after their little break. So I thought if there's ever a good time, this is going to be it. Let me get in front of some of the other Dark Gengars that are available in the event that other people auction those and see what happens. And I did get a record sale. It sold for like over 6,800, which like my optimistic goal was over 7. My actual on paper goal, it cleared north of that. So that was great, but it went unpaid, which is the risk that you have on these auctions. And a week later, ZNG had another Dark Gengar, which was a newer cert that went up, and it sold for like $100 less. That paid. There was another non-ZNG auction of a Dark Gengar. So it just kind of like waterfalled into more sales of that card. And now my Dark Gengar is sitting on auction this week, and we'll see what happens. So from where I'm sitting, yeah, if I'm not able to get a card sold, I've got a couple cards like that right now. I'm happy to give it to an auction house. But now having gone through it, I'm aware of those risks where sometimes things can go unpaid. Sometimes cards are going to come up on the marketplace and then it may impact the sale of your card.
I think that's a very good point to make. Especially with so much like shilling going on in auctions, you're really kind of, you have like two paths. One, you could send it to an auction house, or two, you could trust your network and you can move it that way, which is why I always I tell a lot of people, you're only as good as your network, really. If you have a big network, you can literally move anything. That's what I think. Because there are people out there that can move the most niche cards because they have the network for it. So it's like for in a Mars perspective, that makes a lot of sense because in a market like this, if you're going to all these shows, getting all these opportunities, and you're not able to move a card, you want to take the other option that kind of takes the stress off your plate. And if it moves there, you get all the liquidity back and you're just going on to the next opportunity. I think that's a smart way to play it.
Agreed. But when it comes to these 20K plus cards, it's a little tougher because in auction, you believe it's a certain price.
Right.
But auctions don't hit that. So sometimes, like you said, with your connections and everything, I believe I can move them. Like this year, it was when I posted the Umbreon for 50K on Facebook groups, and everyone was laugh reacting to that.
Yeah.
But
you held strong.
People don't understand. I've moved 3 of those this year for 45K, which isn't far off from the 50.
Exactly.
So it definitely takes a pretty good network to even sell these higher end cards. Or you take the risk, go to the auction house and see what it ends up at.
It's quite motivating when you've done it before, and then people are laughing. You're like, bro, I've done this plenty of times.
Yeah,
it's nice. It's very nice. But congrats on those sales. Those are big sales.
Yeah. And and that's what I did before with my Shining Mewtwo's. I held firm. I said, hell no, this is worth this amount. And I sold both of them, both record sales, and I got my money out and I waited, But I do think there's some value to ZNG when there are legitimately, and other auction houses, but there are legitimately record sales happening. over even what we would estimate the card would sell for. And in those scenarios, I think it might be worth a shot. So we've talked about speculative plays. Now, when we're getting into speculating and we feel confident about a price of a card, value of a card, and we get pushback, sometimes that pushback is coming because there are different accounts on Instagram who post sales 3 weeks after they sold. And it really messes with the value of these cards. Let me explain it a bit better. There are some accounts that are, I would say, a bit irresponsible with the way that they show record sales, and they're not showing them in real time. So we're not able to assess when or what the value of those cards is because those sales happened a long time ago. I wanted to get y'all's thoughts on those accounts and how that's impacted your business, or if you've been able to tell people, hey, this is illegitimate because these sales happened several weeks ago. And how do we even find out that information?
For me, I mean, I haven't run into that issue yet, really. But I mean, I definitely know what you're talking about, and I see it, and it can be definitely very frustrating, especially in this market. To even, I mean, week over week is even important. Sometimes even, but I mean, I guess to my situation, it doesn't apply as much. I'm not moving. Mostly right now, my play is really I blast it on social media on my social medias for sale. You know, I negotiate with a few people. If I don't like my price, I just send it to my vault or to ZNG. And I was like recently with the Masaki Alakazam I had, that 10 I sold today through ZNG. Like, I was very surprised that it took that long to sell for it being a new cert, Pop 41. And like, I was like, oh, I'm going to send it to him. It's going to sell in like a week because there's none listed nowhere. You never see it. Everything's ugly old 2 certs. And it took 6 weeks to sell. But I mean, I got the premium I wanted at the end of the day, right? Like, I got it. It did take a while. And for me, like 6 weeks or whatever, I'm all about just turning and burning and like really trying to make, I don't try to squeeze every little percent out of everything, but sometimes when there's like, I'm also hard headed. When there's something that I know is worth, and I see it, and like honestly, I honestly like even selling it at 13 today. Like I was like, man, there's just none out there. Like that card could be whoever bought it really could now bump it to 15 to 20 and probably get it because again, it's a very clean copy. You know, the premium on new cert, you know, good looking cards is there. And I know I went off on a tangent that didn't apply to what we were talking about, but for that stuff, it doesn't. I mean, for me, it doesn't really apply to my business model.
How about y'all?
I've only had, well, I deal in like the sub 10 category, sub 10K stuff, because I just like rather spend like the couple hundred of, you know, inventory into those things. But there was an instance where it has stopped me in my sourcing ability. I think it might have been a vintage box. I'm just gonna leave it nameless for now, just for protecting myself a little bit. But it was one of the vintage boxes, and it got like a major push, and then the price nearly doubled, and then it kind of ruined it for me in terms of sourcing because we had multiple deals agreed upon, and then yeah, that the news happened, and then it pushed everything up, and then I was like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't follow the data. I was like, I'm gonna stick out of this now because I'm not gonna like risk losing money on this play. But yeah, those type of market moves are quite advantageous for the owners of the companies. But I honestly will applaud them for that. It's like it's a very good tactic. It's not like it's like, you know, it could be wrong, could rub the wrong people off, but like I think it's like still a good tactic in my opinion. It's still a good strategy. But yeah, me personally, I don't like I rather have the most up to date, like fully transparent sales personally.
For sure. And if you know, if they did the due diligence of saying, hey, this sold on this date, we'd be fine.
Yeah.
But there are some accounts that, I mean, literally it's like from a month ago, and it's like, what's happening? There are also accounts, I mean, I'll just name the name. Collector does this in droves. They will post sales that do not get paid, that are fake cards. This happened to me with a Shining Tyranitar Japanese PSA 10 sale. That was crazy under market, like 7K, and it's an 11K card. And Collector had that thing up. You know, I hit up Alt. I told Alt it's an illegitimate sale. That was a fake auction. And Alt took it down. But Collector, I think still to this day has it up. And I could probably name 4 or 5 more examples on Collector specifically, where they're putting on their main grid sales of really huge cards that are illegitimate. And it's kind of hard for us to kind of have to explain, hey, this is the evidence. Here's the backstory. This is not real. I do wish some of those accounts were a bit more responsible. And of course, 1, post the date of the sale, and 2, you know, do some recon on figuring out whether or not those sales are real.
That does surprise me that the Collector does that, but they could be going for like the indie publicity is good publicity kind of move.
Yeah,
like big sale, big sale. It doesn't matter if it's fake or not. Big sale. But yeah.
Here's an interesting question, and actually we'll pivot to questions here in a sec. We got a ton from Instagram, so we'll get to those in a second. But smaller vendor had an opportunity to purchase ponchos more often. How is that market? Yeah, I think you're pointing at Milan. I don't know if it's in sequence.
Oh, I don't know. Is it for you guys? I'm pointing at Milan on my screen.
Oh, you're pointing at Matt on my screen.
Oh.
Yeah, you're pointing at Matt. Yeah, I mean, I've been trolling on ponchos hard this week. I think you probably saw it on my Instagram. I think there's a slight correction happening, but y'all take the floor. What do y'all think?
Yeah, so what I've been saying for quite some time now is like, I think all of them hit 10K, maybe a little bit higher based on the ones that are more in demand, like Poncho X, Poncho Y, Mario Luigi. But I think that once they all hit 10K, I feel like for this cycle, I feel like that's kind of like I kind of feel like that's the cap for right now. Like, you know, I think we've also seen it with like the Rays. We saw them kind of have like a really high sale and then kind of retrace back and just like sitting there, you know, with like the Skull, Magikarp, Gyarados, all of them are around 8 to 8.4. Don't ask me why I know, so I look at numbers way too much. But those kind of haven't hit the 10K threshold yet. So I feel like the market is better for some of them more than others. But I mean, they're still super liquid. You know, you go to a show. I've bought 6 or 7 in the past week and they immediately sold. So it's like, you know, there's demand for them. It's just, you're starting to see a lot more people pop up with them. You know, more smaller vendors also have them. And what I've noticed, especially at like that free show we went to in Allen, there was a lot of smaller, newer vendors with ponchos that were just like pricing them so freaking high. And, you know, of course they weren't moving. So it's like right now, like it's not like the market for ponchos right now is like, you can probably sell it at market or slightly under market, but you can't really sell it over market. Like there's not that much, I don't think there's that much liquidity into them right now. I feel like people are starting to look at other cards. Like seems like people are looking more into gold stars because we've seen the market getting flooded with those at the shows we've been going to. That's just what I think from what I've seen in the past like week or two.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think we were about a month and a half ago, everybody was paying over market for ponchos because they were running up and you definitely would never sell it at market or under. And now we're running into a situation where it's back to normal, where it's like, you know, on average, you're selling between 93 and 97% of the market price, which I don't know if that's a healthy correction or not, but it feels like that's what's happening right now.
We're back to regular meta.
Yeah.
Old school 1 year ago vending.
Which I'm happy about it. Like it's been crazy dealing with this market all year, I'll be honest. And it's nice not to pay over comps.
Right. I mean, I think the only 2 cards that are selling for over market is Low Pop and Gold Stars.
Mm.
Yep. Okay, we'll take some questions. I've got like a dozen of them actually. Thank you for answering them, whoever's on this chat that asked them. What's next after Gold Stars? What do you guys think?
That's a good question.
Vintage boxes.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity in like the vintage boxes. It's just really hard, you know, and this is something that I was talking to a high net worth, like, you know, client of mine that has been buying up a lot of stuff. And what I've been noticing from high net worth individuals is stuff like Gold Stars and higher grades it looks more like more like generational artwork to them, because you have scarcity already, like how art pieces, you normally have one of ones, or you have like X amount of them made. Well, it's kind of the same thing with like graded gold stars and high grades. The chances that you're going to be able to pull one and grade it super high, well, the chances you're going to even pull one is really hard. The chances it gets like a 10 or something is very, very low, and I think people are starting to buy into them as artwork. If we think about some of the artists that have, that created some of these gold stars, I think age-wise, they're also pushing way up there, like in the 80+ range. And, I hope they all live to 100+. But what I'm saying is, like, in the art realm, whenever any of these artists pass away, it's kind of seen as legacy artwork. And when you look at that and you assign that to a card that's like 20 to 23 years old, you really start looking at it as like next generational artwork. And so people are buying into that, because at some point, the prices of that is just going to be like so priced out. And so I feel like that's where the demand for gold stars is coming from, like the bigger like whales, or the bigger money. That's what I think from my experience. But I think like the boxes are untapped, because like so many people are looking at those exact cards. They're not looking at the actual boxes that you can get them from, because they're so scarce. They're even more scarce than the cards themselves. So like Miller said, that might honestly just be the next move. But you're throwing $20,000+ per box. So, the barrier to entry is pretty high.
You know what I think it is? It's the PSA 10 Legendary Collection Reverse Charizard.
Freaking
that one is the next one. It's 123 cert.
Yeah. That's $100,000, folks.
Hey.
Right now.
That's crazy.
I totally agree with you, obviously. You know what's funny, though? A lot of people, and this completely blew past me, there's another freaking level X boom.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Like, I feel like, man, I'm going to sound a little pompous and cocky about this, but we're in like vendor, like circle one of being aware of what the market's doing. And when we were talking about, that sounds crazy. I'm sorry. I don't fully.
No,
but you know what I mean? Like, we talk about this stuff day in and day out. We're living on this like speculative marketplace stuff. And we were talking about level X's a long time ago. And we thought, hey, they would top out. They kind of did, but here we go. They're back up again. And, a lot of people are still making those low pop plays. And maybe there is some growth to be had there, even through the rest of the year. What do y'all think about that low pop stuff? That's one of the other questions too.
Those to me, the gold stars and ponchos, they resonated with me as a personal collector and a vendor. Like a low pop and level X never really resonated to me. But as I'm growing as a collector, and I understand that the higher net worth people, like they will go hardcore on these low pops. They said it's the only way to get it, whatever it costs. take my credit card. I'm like, Jesus Christ. But yeah, I personally, when I feel conviction towards a pump in a certain genre, and I feel like I can relate to that collecting realm or whatever, like Ghost Star Rays, Ponchos, like I can relate to those. But the level X's, I don't know if that's something I can relate with. Like alt arts, I love those. I love that time when they pumped up. Amar mentioned like they're a little cheap, maybe a month ago or something like that. But I personally don't even know what the next wave is. But I think when I get back into vending again, back at Collecticons, I can kind of feel it out again. So hopefully I can feel that at Worlds next week.
The other risk too with low pop stuff is you have to have the network to move those things, man.
100%.
Because they're niche. I know they don't sound niche to us because like a Gengar is a Gengar and a Giratina plasma whatever is crazy and everyone should know about it. Guess what? No one freaking knows about it. And you're gonna find 17 people who are willing to pay $15,000 cash for that freaking slab. So just be careful when you're getting into it. Yeah, of course, like with any card, if you get into it low enough, you're protected. But time also is money. And if it takes you 3 months to sell something, bro, you could have used that money better. So
Yep.
Low pop is definitely interesting in that regard.
When I think of low pop, I think like you have to be just an extraordinary good salesman to sell it, because
Yeah.
it's like some of them are just so random, like you said. You know, you're not going to find. It's like every single person that walks by, you're not. If you can try and sell them a Lamborghini, they're not going to be able to buy it. But there's going to be that one guy that you can sell it to that's going to buy it. You know, so you got to take your chances on it too, and hopefully the volatility doesn't spike to the downside. It only goes up. You know, because that's another thing that a lot of people haven't seen yet. You know, low pop has generally been stable or going up. You know, we haven't been kicked with a lot of much lower comp sales. I mean, I think you kind of hit one with the Tyranitar, the stamped Tyranitar. That was like the first kind of example I've seen of low pop kind of, you know, swinging downward.
Yeah, it kicked me in the ass.
Oh,
And
God.
I look, I'm gonna make my money on it. It's I just told you the play. You pay low enough and you're fine.
Yeah.
But like you're expecting to make $1,000 more, and you suddenly can't because some doofus just put it up and it sold in an hour, and they didn't know what they had, and that's now the market price of a freaking card because there's only 100 of them in the world, and somebody just had it, and they also have
Oh, man.
sports jerseys, and they wanted to sell their Tyranitar because they see that it's expensive now, and suddenly the play that you thought was extremely safe and sound is not. I'm not that bitter about it. Obviously, this is the risk that I'm taking with super low pop stuff, but it's caution to you guys. If you're thinking, oh man, like this is the craziest play in the world, I'm gonna like cash out. There can be times like that where like some fluke occurrence happens, and then you don't get to capitalize on what you thought was a safe play. And that hey, that is to the point of this call, the risk with dabbling in graded cards in general.
Mm-hmm.
The volatility on these cards is freaking nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's even with like, you know, blue chip Moonbryons, you know, like somebody, I'm not going to name his name, when they ran up a week ago, 2 weeks ago, just over 3K. And then there was that like 3.5K sale. Somebody bought 10 of them at like 2,700.
Oh,
I'm like, bro. First of all, did you see that the sale that was 3,500 was a chipped slab from Z&G? Like that's not legitimate. Did you pay attention? Slabs are risky, so you just got to be careful and really, really spend the time to look at what you're buying.
There's some sealed plays going on, but this is a slab conversation. I'll
Hey.
keep it to the
I saw your Paldea Evolve case sold immediately. I was actually thinking of offering. on
Yeah,
that.
I got one more if you want one. But
Deal on stream, crazy.
Deal on stream. I was holding it, but you know.
This is a fun one. Grail card that you haven't obtained yet. I mean, mine's the lenticular Deoxys PSA 10, and I'll get it.
Sick.
My whole MO with that is I have to grade it myself on Deoxys PC, so I will. I know it's going to be torturous, but I've got 20 years, so.
Okay. Oh my god, that sounds brutal.
Is my head where Dylan is at? Am I a
My has
Rayquaza
been the same since the first stream we've ever had. We're gonna share a Gold Star Raid 10 together.
Oh yeah.
Well, he might actually get one himself because he has to get the trio.
That's
and
true.
You have the whole EX Deoxys 10 set. But yeah, Deoxys or Gold Star 10 Rayquaza is for me.
Mine is a Japanese the Tamayushi University Magikarp. I've always liked that card. It's like the first card when I came in that like I learned about, like when I was learning about Japanese and like their trophies and like their, you know, high end and all that. I mean a lot of stuff to me is still so cheap, but also again it's a very small market, very niche. So, but yeah, 10 of that someday.
Is that the one with the lightning?
Yeah, we're just doing like dragon. Yeah,
that one is sick.
One of my biggest grails, like you guys might not remember, but I had an entire near mint master set of legendary collections that I sold for like 10K locally a long time ago, and every card in that set graded like a 8 or better. And so, but I still like never graded it because I didn't want to grade the entire set and pay like a crap load of money. But like that Charizard was a card that I always wanted, and like I just didn't want to all the copies that are out were like crap, and like then it like ballooned to 30+K, and then I find the only 12 cert copy, and I end up getting it, and I was literally just like sitting in the bedroom staring at it. It's kind of weird, but it was like it's such a nice card.
That Wolverine photo, you just with the card.
Literally.
Wait, so that's your Grail card, like your actual Grail card?
It's actually one of my Grails because Legendary Collection is my favorite set ever. And so like seeing that copy and actually seeing that it's like a true PSA 10 like actually makes me very happy. So I'm probably not going to be moving that card anytime soon. It'll probably just be sitting there for like showcasing or anything.
That's fire, dude.
It all works out.
That's another fun one. And then we can get back into more serious ones. But what's your favorite set to rip? I started kind of recently, and the first real set that I got my hands on, Japanese 151, and still to this day, it's my favorite set to rip. I think it's got the perfect balance of chase cards, one Master Ball per box, IRs, the rest. I freaking love that set.
I don't have much ripping experience because I like give myself harsh rules of ripping, but Evolving Skies is probably my go-to because I'm like whenever I open Evolving Skies, it's like go big or go home, and I start sweating a little bit. I open the back and hit it all the time like yes, we're good. But then I haven't had much experience opening any of the bigger sets, but I do want to open Deoxys one day.
Cool. Oh, we should do a box break together.
I would love it, man. I would love it.
Crazy.
I gotta earn that one. I gotta work my booty off for that one.
Mine is Celebration, just kind of like when I came back in more seriously, and I just enjoyed ripping so much of it. I mean, it's because it was not hard to pull nothing. So I know it was the 4 cards a pack or whatever, but you were always hitting the Charizard every 5 or 10 ETBs, I would hit a Charizard. And I remember one time I opened one ETB and I hit back-to-back Charizards, and I was just like, this is crazy. It was just like a dopamine, like, just consistently getting hits and all that.
Mine would probably have to be Silver Tempest, because that's when I also came back in, like ripping. And I remember during that time I ripped at least 2 or 3 cases, and I didn't never hit the Lugia. But
dang,
I enjoyed a lot of the cards of the set.
Mine's definitely got to be Prismatic. It's just because when we were at Dallas Card Show that one day and we were ripping the crap out of that set and got nothing.
Yeah.
Damn.
That was a core memory. That was so much fun. I think Cooper was there too. Spiffs was there, and he ripped through like a couple hundred packs and pulled like nothing, and we were all just like crying together.
Dude, it's crazy. I wasn't even there, and I heard about that. I was just like, "What's going on?" I was like, "That sounded fun, though."
I can't believe you picked that set. I hate that set. Here's a good one from Trainer's Corner. What do you dictate what % you pay on a slab? Example, what do you pay on alt art, PSA 10s versus ponchos versus gold stars, etc.? This is a good one. Yeah, anyone want to take this one?
So I can take this one. I think a good example for me is Dallas Card Show, the last one, because I was just looking at like the market, and I knew exactly what I wanted to buy, and what I wanted to buy was like gold stars. And I think I told Amar and Miller about this. I went there with an absolute vengeance, and literally I was buying gold stars left and right at comps. I was literally paying full comps for these, like all PSA 9s. Like I bought 2 gold star rays like at like 22K or something like that, like straight, like no BS. I just bought it because I just felt that with the way the market's going, the upside was on my side. And so I was specifically looking at that. I saw a lot of modern like alt arts and stuff, and I figured get the stuff that everybody else doesn't have. And so I was like, you know what, if I have to pay comps on this and I'm very, very confident that it's going to go up, then paying comps doesn't even matter. And then guess what happened? Everything pumped like 30%. So it's like, sometimes if your gut tells you it, you just pay comps. Like even with ponchos, you could have been paying comps for for like 6 to 8 months, and they're going up. So, you know, just trust your gut really with the cards. And normally, like right now, I feel like you'll be right.
That was great. I was watching from afar, and I thought you were building a 9 set. That's what your goal was.
That's
I was
crazy.
like, this dude's just clearing the whole freaking market. I was like, he has a 9 set right there. But that's great. I also pay comps on like stuff that I believe in, but usually like much lower value stuff. It's like the 300, 500 stuff. I'm like, that's dirt cheap. Buy it right away. Don't even care what the market is. But generally for vending purposes, I buy from 79 to 90%. 70 is like, it's a good card, but I don't want to overpay for it. I'll pay 90 on it if it's a good show card though. I buy particularly for like there's a bucket for my own customers that I know it will sell, like on Instagram and Facebook, and then there's a bucket of customers for like shows. We go to so many shows, and like I know what the show field is like, and then I have a for just like other plays. But yeah, 70-90 is my normal play, and then 100% for the gut plays, like Milan was saying.
Yeah, I'm kind of almost where Dylan's at, you know, with like high pop stuff, like alt arts, SIRs, I try to say under 80% for sure. I think I've pretty much kicked up my buy price on anything 500 plus that's high pop to like 75%. Low key, that's just because I want to win the sale usually. And when it comes to high end gold stars, ponchos, etc., if it's coming to my table, I'm going to offer 90%. There's going to be wiggle room if it's a good enough gold star. Like a Reggie Rock, I'm not going to pay over 90%. But if somebody comes to me with a Torchic, yeah, I'm going to work with you, depending on how you're coming to me and what your pricing is to begin with. But there are instances, and I have a lot of fun with this. There are shows where I kind of get a kick out of beating everyone in the room because I know that it's going to go up in price. So I've done that a few times. Namely, I just posted about it, the Umbreon Prime back at Front Row. I paid over comps. I beat everybody in the room. I knew it was going to appreciate. So there are times like that where I like to have fun with it. But yeah, generally speaking, high pop, I stay at a lower percentage just because they are a little bit easier to find. Stuff that's a bit more high end, over 2K, high percentages will, of course, go up from there. What about you, Miller?
Let's see. If it's modern, I'd like to stick 80 and below. And then anything else like vintage and higher end stuff, 85 and up. Like y'all, you know, like I said, 100% on stuff that I found value in. Especially on those speculation plays we were talking about before. Like, you know, we always see numbers on last solds for, let's say, a first set Chinese Zard, and that's low. I think it can go higher. I'd probably pick it up at 100% like y'all.
Yep. Some of these questions are really inappropriate, by the way.
Really?
I mean, like, can we let's roll, I guess.
I mean, one of them was like, between the 5 of you, who has the best shot at grading a PSA 10?
Oh, that's easy.
Dylan.
No, I mean,
Yeah,
Cass might be a good grader too. I don't know.
Well, that's true too. That's true too.
Yeah. I've had some crazy cards I've graded.
Y'all got arm wrestle to see who wins.
That's crazy.
This is unrelated to graded cards, but it's a good one. Which area in the U.S. is the best to vend in? Has the strongest Pokemon market? I feel like my opinion's changed on this year. I will say this: Dallas is an incredibly competitive market, and if you don't have a network, it's really hard to vend here. I'm not saying that that's fully true, because of course your inventory is going to speak for itself, but it's really competitive, and there are a lot of shows. So good market, but hard. I've always said that New Jersey is kind of the best, and I think in terms of buying power, it probably still is. But I kind of want to revisit some more West Coast shows this year and get a better temp on how it's been, because from my peers, what they've been saying is the front rows and all the rest here out in the West Coast have been insane this year. So I'm not sure. What do y'all think?
Texas is high elo. Like we said last time, very, very competitive. I personally like the coastal sides for vending. West Coast, I just resonate more with the West Coast kind of community, but East Coast has like better, like stronger dollars. So like coastals are much better in my opinion.
Yeah.
I would travel each way. I don't know which one's better, to be honest. They both seem pretty good.
For me, I guess now that I'm doing more buying at shows, I really like my current scene because again, it's not too competitive, so it's a little bit biased. But and then, I mean, I love going to Dallas. I love going to Houston. Again, Dallas is like a bit different beast every time I go out there. Like, I can't, do too much out there, either selling or buying because it's just so competitive. But Houston has there's some good like deals to be had out in Houston, buying and all that, and then selling too. And I haven't done a show on the West Coast or the East Coast. I do have Card Party, but I mean, I don't think that's going to be like a crazy vending show this year. But who knows? Other than that, I really do want to get out to some front rows. A couple of us Austin guys have been talking about trying to get tables and going out together and just experiencing it.
What are you guys buying right now?
Anything with margin.
Period.
Really, yeah.
Definitely not buying ultra modern still. Anything past Scarlet Violet 1 through 4. I think we're gonna see the Greninjas and Pikachus of the world appreciate, but yeah, outside of that, I think I'm not buying a lot of modern.
I've been doing a lot of basic plays and just buying booster boxes. Like that's just been me because I was like I've been out of the country for the last month. So I've been like out of the know in terms of like slab market. So sorry, my freaking mic died. But booster boxes is what I've been targeting personally.
All right, we will take. God damn it, Maz. We'll take one more question here. Are Shinings a good buy? I can actually. I gotta move, but I'll answer this. I'm gonna walk with me, guys. I think Shinings are weird, and I've had them, and they've been. The Mewtwo's were really, really fun for people to look at and admire, and they were not as liquid as I'd hoped. Now, did I cash out on them and do well? Yeah. Look, my gut still says there's a ton of room on Shinings, and they have not boomed yet. So there is a chance that they could really go. But for some reason or another, they haven't yet. I think a lot of people say that, like, one of the sets, like Neo Rev, one of them is a peculiar set where it just hasn't appreciated as much as others. But it's a good thing to speculate on. And I think, if you had some money to spare, if you wanted to test it on one PSA 10 for said Shining, just to see, it's not a bad play. I don't think it's super risky. Like, you're not going to lose money, but for some reason or another, it hasn't gone up crazy.
I mean, I think it's cheap personally.
Yeah.
But I don't resonate with it. Like I said earlier, like it doesn't click with me. So like I think in a very generalist sense when I do like my market predictions, the new kid's not gonna like Shinings is what I'm trying to say. New kids will like Gold Stars, Like I think that's the case. So I think they're cheap, but I also don't think they're gonna target the general market. Is why I personally think they have some much more time to just chill a little bit.
Cool. All right. Well, this is a short one. I think we all have to can it now in a couple minutes. But no, Maz, I'm not going to talk about new certs. New certs are better on average because they grade better. They're better looking cards. Buy the card, not the grade. Well, buy the right PSA 10. That's the better card. Anyway, thank you all for hopping on this one. It was fun to talk about graded cards. I think it's still the Wild West for a lot of folks, and there are not a lot of people really talking about it to this detail. So I'm glad we were able to. You guys can find all these folks on Instagram, a few of these folks on YouTube, TikTok. We've got Mushu's Collectibles, we've got Caas Collectibles, we've got MetaKhai, we've got Atlas Win. All great folks. If you haven't followed, please follow them. And we're always selling stuff online too. So take a look at what we have. And if you want stuff to us too, we are buying. And thanks for all the friends who joined in. Have a good one. And can't wait to see you guys at Worlds next week.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
See y'all at Worlds.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for having me. Bye, guys.